Melissa came home from work that evening, tired right down to her bones and every muscle aching. The work week is officially over. Now it was time to scream. Melissa wanted to officially scream. The tiny one-bedroom apartment was a mess. It was a mess when she'd left. It was worse now. Soda and beer cans everywhere. By the couch, on the coffee table, left upon bookshelves, on the TV stand. The ones that were empty were dented and crushed. Fast food wrappers rolled around the floor in the fan-manufactured breeze and pizza boxes dotted the carpet. If she hadn't just gulped fresh air, Melissa might not have recognized the distinct odor of unwashed clothes. She high-stepped over cans and garbage to the washer and dryer and opened the laundry closet doors. A basket full of dirty clothes had been propped up on top. The laundry was in the washer, but it was wet and spoiled. This was the load she'd started this morning, just before leaving for work. Douglas. Her boyfriend came tromping out of the bedroom. He looked like he'd just gotten out of bed. His scraggly dark hair tumbled over his face in places even as parts of it stuck out at strange angles in the back. He definitely needed a shave. Doug was the kind of man who just couldn't grow a beard, and his facial hair only came out in ugly and scraggly little patches. From 3 feet away, Melissa could tell Douglas had been smoking naughty substances. "Sorry," he let out a yawn. "I was taking a nap." "You were supposed to be cleaning up," Melissa said. Doug waved it off. I will. Don't worry about it." That's what he'd said yesterday. And the day before. And the day before that. "Did you at least look for a job?" "Yeah," Doug stuttered. "I did. No interviews lined up yet, but I put my resume everywhere." Melissa knew it was a lie. Nevertheless, she persisted. "Yeah? Like where?" Doug huffed. "One of his tells. You know. Everywhere. Retail mostly. Places that don't require experience. Entry-level jobs. That kind of thing." "Oh sure. That kind of thing." It must have shown on Melissa's face. "You okay, babe?" Something inside Melissa snapped just then. "Yeah," she said. It was her turn to lie. "Excuse me for a couple of minutes." Okay." Melissa walked back out into the parking lot. The first thing she did was bury her face into her hands, and scream into them until the tears started to leak out. Why? Why did she have to be in love with such a loser? It was just endless frustration. Douglas wasn't always like this. He used to be charming and energetic and motivated. But Douglas was a bottle rocket. Full of big ideas and great ambitions. Then something would deter him, or distract him, and he'd go veering way off course, and then just peter out. Some said that Doug had undiagnosed ADHD. Lots of energy, no focus. Others thought he was an adult gifted kid and he'd gotten by on his own natural talent, and he was talented, for so long that he never really learned how to work hard for something. But really, Melissa felt, Doug was really just a big kid, and not in the good or fun way. He'd throw his heart and soul into something for a few days, like a kid getting new toys on Christmas, and then be bored and listless again immediately afterward. Laying around the house, drinking sugar and booze, and eating like he was still a teenager. Cleaning house like he still had his mother to pick up after him. It was then that she knew what she had to do. Taking her cell phone, she dialed an old college friend of hers. One who lived nearby and she'd kept in close touch with. One whose career had taken her far away from a career in dentistry. It went straight to voicemail. Damn it. "Hello, thank you for calling Mommy V. If you'd like to schedule a recording session." Melissa hung up. Damn it. This was not the sort of thing she wanted to leave on a voicemail. Her phone buzzed just a second later. "Veronica?" Melissa said, picking up the phone. "Melissa? What's up? Remember the thing we talked about? The thing about if and when I was ready for it?" There was a brief pause as Veronica chewed on her lip from the other end of the line. "You want to be one of my models?" Even though her friend couldn't see her face, Melissa was shaking her head. "No," she said. "Well, kinda. It's complicated." "How complicated?" "Let's just say that I need your help, and I think I have an idea that might be beneficial to both of us." Melissa gritted her teeth. But I definitely need your help at first, financially. She explained her plan. By the time Melissa was explaining her idea, Veronica was laughing so hard. No, stop. Stop. I'm in. Consider me an investor and supplier. Melissa said her goodbyes and had her tears replaced with a devious smirk. Everything okay? Douglas asked her when she came back in not quite 10 minutes after she'd left. Yes, Melissa said. Just had some last-minute calls I had to make to the office. Do you want to do something tomorrow? I'm starting to feel some cabin fever is all. Been close to a month since I've been somewhere besides the office or home. Her boyfriend looked around at the pile of junk that he'd littered all around the apartment. I mean, yeah. Cleaning up. If not for her phone call, Melissa would be bristling right now. We'd clean it up. Douglas had made 99% of the mess. He couldn't be bothered to learn to cook, or bring garbage to the dumpster, but we'd clean it up. If she was having second thoughts, she wasn't anymore. It can wait. Let's order pizza and just watch some TV. It was the best day that Douglas could remember in a long time. It wasn't a trip to Disney or nothing, but it was still really good. He was a little annoyed at first that Melissa woke him up early, but then she took him out. They'd had a great breakfast, bottomless pancakes and iced sugary coffee. Then they'd gone to see an early matinee. Lots of explosions and then stopped at a sushi place for lunch. Melissa had paid for it all. She'd paid for it all normally, true, but she'd specifically asked for the check each time. No more awkward stares from waitresses. It was when they'd gotten home that things really kicked into high gear. Put this on. Melissa dangled a frilly black blindfold in front of him on. I want to show you something. Douglas knew that tone. Where'd you get that? Douglas asked. Just put it on, silly. How are you gonna be able to show me something if my eyes are covered up? He asked inquisitively. That got him a light smack in the arm. Douglas laid on the bed, unable to contain the grin plastered all over his face. He'd allowed himself to be guided, completely carried away by the sensory deprivation. For some reason, the apartment smelled different, too. Like fresh perfume, lavender. I got a cleaning crew to come help while we were out. They'd done a good job. The place had never smelled this good before. He'd tried to help Melissa in her little conquest. However, that had only earned him a slap on the wrist. One that actually hurt a little bit. No. Let me do it for you, baby. She whispered. Oh. That certainly did something to awaken him. Patience, baby. Melissa said. All good things to those who wait. I want to get this just right. Doug squirmed on the bed. His stomach gurgled, and he felt a not-so-little cramp. The morning coffee and lunchtime sushi were finally starting to do their work. Speaking of this stuff, there was definitely a bullet in the chamber, so to speak. Determined not to ruin this for himself, Doug clenched a little. Already he was working out a game plan. At some point Melissa would get off, too, he supposed, but that didn't come into his calculations. Melissa was a big girl and knew how to take care of herself. Almost ready, Melissa told him. Strange, yet oddly familiar crinkling sound. Eerily familiar. You opening something up? He asked. Maybe Melissa had a toy in a plastic bag that she was just now opening. Melissa didn't immediately respond. Thrust your hips up for me, she said. He did so. Even with his legs the way they were, he still had enough to get his butt up a few inches. Good boy. Go ahead and lower yourself down. Good. Doug's bottom came down on something soft and padded, almost like an extra layer of bedding. When he did, he heard that same crinkle. Open up, Melissa told him. Doug did, but only to ask a question. He never got a word out. Something big and rubber entered his mouth. Some kind of gag? Still blindfolded, he frowned as he reflexively sucked on the rubber teat, a long dormant habit resurfacing. A pacifier? Once again, Doug's own chain of thought was interrupted as he felt Melissa grab him member. What the? He mumbled. The thing was just wide enough that he couldn't spit it out right away. Click click. Doug felt something fasten around him, fastening onto the base, but not quite covering him otherwise. Without looking at it he couldn't quite identify it, though. "Okay, baby," Melissa said, her voice cooing the way women do when they're talking to a small child. "Now, you can look." The blindfold was torn away from his eyes. What Doug saw made his own personal Error 404 screen blip up in his brain. Melissa had changed her clothes. She wouldn't be wearing anything that Doug would have expected to see. Her skinny jeans and tight t-shirt had been traded in for a modest dress. The kind that people wore to church on Sunday. She'd taken out her contacts and put on her glasses. As soon as his brain registered what she was wearing, his eyes finally realized what she was doing. There was a camera set up in the bedroom, pointed right at him. "Hold still, baby." Whether out of a physical inability or a mental overload, Douglas did stay still. He stayed still enough to watch in wide-eyed horror and shrieked as Melissa pulled a diaper up. A diaper. A real diaper. Not like a Depends or whatever those old people wore in nursing homes. This one had cartoons on the front. Little cartoon meteors decorated the front, with a green triceratops standing in profile on the top of the waistband. It was thick, too. Other than the plastic backing, it looked exactly like the type of diaper an actual baby might wear. A quick glance to the dresser behind the camera, and Doug realized that there were plenty more where that one had come. Douglas used his tongue to push the bulbous pacifier and it was a pacifier out of his mouth. "Melissa. What the hell?" Ridiculous thing on him. "It's mommy to you, little boy." She scolded him. "And no cursing. You get one warning." Douglas laughed. Actually laughed. "Are you kidding?" Whack. Melissa had a paddle nearby. Her blow smacked the outside of his hip. It stung a lot. "Bad baby." "Whack." That one felt like it might actually leave a bruise. "Bad baby." "Ow. Ow, ow. Okay, I am sorry." "Whack." That one definitely a bruise. Her voice lowered back down. "You're sorry, who?" "I am sorry, Melissa." Whack. "Say it right, baby boy." She was even scarier now that she wasn't yelling. "Say my name." Tears of pain were already starting to form in Douglas's eyes. "Mommy. Your name is Mommy." She put down the paddle and walked over to his head. She gave him a kiss on the forehead. "Good baby." "Melissa, why are you?" Whack. That one had been barehanded but it still hurt. "Mommy, why are you doing this?" In answer, she went back over to the dresser where the extra diapers, a bottle of baby powder, wipes, and some lotion were all placed. Beside them was a baby bottle filled with clear liquid. He'd hoped it was just water. She slid on the bed next to him. "Open up." Having little choice, he did as he was told. It was water all right. Mostly. Tea had kind of a weird and funny taste to it. "You drink this all gone, and I'll explain." Douglas started to gulp it down, just to get it over with. Gently. Mommy doesn't want her little baby getting a tummy ache." He slowed it down to a sip. He'd been cowed so easily. He never thought this would be possible. But here he was being force-fed a bottle on the threat of spanking, right after his girlfriend had diapered him. She must have seen the blush rising to his cheeks at the thought of his predicament. "No need to be embarrassed," she told him. "You're just sipping on your baba as all good babies do." Douglas tried to ask why, but he only got out some gurgles for his trouble. Melissa squeezed the bottle a bit more the moment he started trying to talk. His tummy gurgled, starting to feel overfull. Something else was feeling overfull. Still, she clearly understood what he was asking. "I've just been thinking," she said gently, a hint of malice and mischief in her eyes. "I've been treating you all wrong these last couple of months. You don't go to work. You don't clean up after yourself. You don't pay for anything. You just eat and drink and sleep all day. Does that sound like boyfriend material to you, Douglas?" Douglas couldn't argue, and not just because he wasn't quite halfway done. Another cramp hit him. "This might not be all water. So I'm gonna treat you the way you've been acting," she continued. "Like my little baby boy." She bopped him on the nose, playfully. His stomach was really starting to hurt. His body was telling him something, but Doug really didn't want to listen. No. Finally, he finished, and she took the baby bottle out of his mouth. Whether it was spiked or not, the bottle was doing a number on him. His stomach was hurting and he desperately needed to void his bowels. But no. Not in his pants. Not in a diaper. Not like this. Why the cage? He groaned. Melissa pinched his cheek. Because you've been a bad baby. Mommy had to take away her little boy's favorite toy. She gave him a kiss full on the lips. Naughty little baby. The slacker grimaced and groaned. Even with the intestinal cramps and the rapidly filling bladder. Oh, you noticed that? Melissa said in a squeaky high voice. That's one of the ways to make sure you cooperate and be a good baby. If you try and leave or misbehave, and act like a big strong man, she giggled, I'll have something to put on the internet, and everyone will know just what an adorable little boy you are. Damn. She had him dead to rights. Any fight he might have had went to cower in the back corner of his mind. Still, he did struggle against his bonds. Oh, I know what that means. She almost crowed. She put a hand on his stomach. Be a good baby, she whispered. Use your diaper. He wouldn't. He couldn't. He mustn't. Her hand thrust down into his gut. Too late. His body started to take over, rude noises erupting out of him as sloppy wet farts, and more than farts began to leak out his backside. No! He screamed. He struggled, he whimpered. He clenched his cheeks and held his breath and slammed his body down against the mattress, trying to use basic physics to counter his treacherous biology. But his new mommy was quicker and smarter. She started to undo his bonds, starting with his legs. For a fleeting instant, Douglas wondered if he was being shown mercy. Far from it. Don't worry, baby, she teased. Mommy will help. With one quick heave, she shoved his legs up towards the ceiling and back towards his chest. His butt was now pointed away from the mattress, and the final bit of pressure pushed him over the edge. The floodgates opened as Doug's body finished its ultimate betrayal. Helplessly messed himself, just like the infant he was dressed as. No. He felt the diaper expand beneath him, but not nearly enough as wet, mushy poop filled his seat and spread out. On pushing as if acting on some kind of muscle memory that had faded, but not disappeared, with potty training. His front side became equally warm and wet, with his bladder deciding to get in on the act. If the swelling and ballooning in the back of his diaper wasn't bad enough, the meteors on the front of the diaper started fading with the wetness, disappearing from the front and marking his shame. Mommy's kisses to his forehead helped, but not much. That's right, baby. Be good and use your diaper. Never before had he been so degraded, so humiliated. He'd just filled his pants like a giant toddler. Not even a toddler. Toddlers could at least find a place to hide before they soiled themselves. He'd just done it all while lying down. And it was all on camera. He was ruined. Ruined. If he ever got out of line, she'd ruin him. Douglas wasn't much to begin with, but now if he did see a rise in his station he could be brought right back down into the playpen. No. Melissa stroked his forehead. Don't worry, Dougie, Mommy will change you. She's used to cleaning up your messes. The diaper just makes it easier. She walked back over to the dresser and laid her hand on the stack of diapers. All you have to do is ask. Please. Doug blurted out. Please what? Please change me. Please change my diaper. Please, who? Please Mommy. Please. Please change my diaper, Mommy. His girlfriend, no, his mommy did seem pleased. But she didn't pick up a fresh diaper. Not right away. Instead, she opened the dresser drawer and took out an electric buzz cutter, a can of shaving cream, a towel and a straight razor. I will, she told him. But first I have to do something for you. You don't look like a big boy with your hair all messy like that, but you definitely don't look like Mommy's precious boy. She smiled. Let's fix that. Mommy. No, don't. I'll be good. I promise. I know you'll be good, baby Douglas, she said. Because you're not getting out of that messy diaper until I make you all nice and clean up top. Something appropriate for job interviews. The longer it takes me to clean you up, the more likely it is you're gonna get a nasty rash. She stole a look at the camera. Or I could just send this video out, right now. Would you like that? Doug already knew the answer to that. So did Mommy. She wasn't Melissa right now, rather some horrific persona Melissa had concocted. He stayed as still as he could, trembling as she shorn his hair like a sheep down to a buzz cut, and shaved his face until it was, perhaps literally, baby smooth. Agony, trying not to move or talk too much even as his diaper cooled and became itchy and smelly. No wonder babies cried when they needed changing. He would too if his bottom started to itch and burn without him being able to scratch it. Even if his arms were free, Douglas wasn't sure he could scratch his ass through all of the padding wrapped around it. He'd just end up smearing more of his own mess all over himself. Mommy Melissa collected all the hair she had removed from Douglas in the towel. She popped the giant pacifier back into Douglas's mouth and went and got the fresh diaper and wipes. This one had a blue T-Rex on it. Great. Different decorations for different diapers. It was probably about as manly a diaper as he could expect. You were such a good boy. Mommy Melissa praised him. Doug's blush was full body. The blush was infinitely easier to see now that all the hair was out of and off of his face. Time to change your diaper. The tapes came off of the plastic with an audible rip. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one a little rip to Doogie's pride, modesty, and psyche. Phew. Mommy waved her hand in front of her nose. You really did a number in this one, baby. She sighed. But I should be used to it, I guess. He'd never admit it, as awful as this was, but the cold wipes felt nice on his skin. It even made it a little easier to suck on the pacifier. He did his best to follow instructions and raise his legs as instructed. He didn't whine or fuss. He just let her do the work on him. After the muck and residue were wiped off of him, Mommy Melissa balled up the diaper. She threw it away in a garbage can by the dresser. Except it wasn't a garbage can that Dougie could ever remember seeing. That was new. And the lids on those flip-top waste baskets weren't normally nearly as heavy. Still, on the bed, Dougie used his freed feet to shuffle up to a sitting position and get a better view of the thing. The thing had letter stickers decorating it. If he hadn't figured out what it was before, he had it literally spelled out for him a second later. Doogie's diaper pail. How far was this going? Wordlessly, Mommy Melissa turned around and saw that he'd moved. Smack. The bare-handed slap on his naked thigh hurt even more after a little bit of time had been given to it. Dougie couldn't get flat on his back fast enough. Almost done. She threw a glance at the shaving equipment, but not quite. Somebody needs another lesson. Dougie dared not do anything other than lie still. Lie. Very still. Careful baby, Mommy said, adding words to his dread. I don't want to nick anything. Then she said something worse. This will make you so much easier to keep you clean. Uh-oh, how long was Mommy planning on staying Mommy? How long was she planning on keeping him like this? Mommy sprinkled on the baby powder and rubbed it in. That's about the time when Dougie realized the nice smell in the tiny apartment's living room. He slammed his eyes shut, refusing to look as Mommy drew up the fresh diaper between his legs and taped it on. He couldn't see it. But he could hear, feel, and smell everything. Press with each tape, the smell of the powder. All he could do was suck on the pacifier, praying for it to be over. Okay, Mommy said. She reached over and uncuffed him. Stand up. He did, easily. The hard part was not making a break for it. He wouldn't get far though, not in a big baby diaper and sucking on a soother. Yikes. Why was he envisioning himself keeping the patchy? He shivered at the thought. Mommy clicked her tongue. Poor baby feels cold, she said. Good thing Mommy's prepared. The top drawer was also stocked with a t-shirt. A pastel blue t-shirt with pictures of safety pins and rattles on it. Nothing a self-respecting adult would ever wear. Arms up. Apparently, Dougie wasn't a self-respecting adult anymore. The shirt came over his head and his arms went through the sleep. Mommy kept tugging down thought, down past his waist and between his legs. The sound of snaps being fastened right by his crotch made him look down. The good news was, his diaper was no longer completely on display, the leg gathers just barely poked out of the onesie. The bad news was that Dougie was now wearing a onesie. "Better?" she asked. Obediently, Dougie nodded. Mommy took him by the hand, and let him out of their bedroom. For the second time that day, the pacifier dropped out of Doogie's mouth, this time clattering to the floor. Dougie didn't recognize the place. All of the garbage had been completely cleared out, and the floors swept and mopped. Completely spotless. But the furniture was gone too. No more TV or video game system. Gone was the couch. His favorite recliner had been pilfered. In their place was a blackboard, an adult-sized crib, and a stool placed in the corner. What Douglas saw looked like some kind of preschool classroom. "Where did you get this stuff? Where'd all of my stuff go?" The pacifier was picked up and shoved back in his mouth before he could finish his second sentence. Mommy Melissa booped the pacifier on his mouth. "Keep this in your mouth," she smiled. Douglas could hear the "or else" in her voice. She waited a moment. He sucked the pacifier. "Finally," she said. "It's time for your punishment." Time for his punishment? This wasn't his punishment. He was led to the blackboard. Up close he noticed a few extra details. Like how the alphabet border around the rolled-in chalkboard only had the letters A, B, D, and L. His girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend. Melissa. Now his mommy. As in Mommy Melissa picked up a piece of chalk and put it in his hand. "You're going to write 'babies don't have jobs' 200 times on this blackboard." The diapered boy looked at the rolled-out blackboard. It wasn't the biggest blackboard in the world, but if he kept his writing small enough he should just be able to squeeze it in, no problem. "With your right hand." What? No way could he use his non-dominant hand. No possible way. As a guy, his handwriting was sloppy enough. But in his right hand it'd be almost impossible. Just, like, A. Mommy wasn't hearing any of it. "Get to work, baby boy." The swat to his padded backside didn't hurt, but it did make him jump to work. She stood back, watching him expectantly. Dougie slumped. He really was in the doghouse this time. His diaper crinkled a bit as he nervously shifted his weight. His gait was off too. Wider than it normally would have been, with all the pulp and padding forcing his legs further apart. He really hoped he'd never have to get used to this. Slowly, with shaky and sloppy writing, Dougie wrote down, "Babies don't have jobs. Babies don't have jobs. Babies don't have jobs." He found that if he wrote in all caps it went faster. He just wanted this to be over. To stop being treated like a naughty little boy, and to get his big boy pants back on. Babies don't have jobs. And so on it went until his fingers hurt and his wrist ached. Please just let this be over. Much too soon, he ran out of room. Even writing as fast and as small as he could, he just barely broke 100 before all the space was taken up. "My," he mumbled. Mutter RM. Mommy walked up, and held her hand under her chin. She grabbed the eraser from the blackboard and sent every sentence to oblivion. "Too bad," she said. "None of that counts. Try it again. 200 times on one side or nothing." Dougie spit the binky out into his hand. "What?" he asked. He lowered his volume. "Honey, Mommy. Can't we have a compromise? Can't I write it 200 times altogether? I ran out of room. I didn't mean to do it on purpose." Dark embers burned in Mommy's eyes. "I told you not to spit your binky out." In a blink, Doogie's ear was on fire. Ear first he was dragged over to the corner and pressed down onto a low stool. Timeout. He was being sent to timeout. Maybe the baby is too young for school. Maybe he's not ready to grow up and shouldn't be allowed to even write lines. Dougie looked up, his face sunken. "No, I'm not. I can grow up, Mommy. I promise." Mommy wasn't hearing any of it. Dougie sat there dumbfounded as she walked away, leaving him there and heading for the bathroom. She wasn't gone long. In her hand was a bar of soap. Let's see if you can learn to keep this in your mouth. She pinched his nose and wedged it in his teeth. Tongue retreated as far back into his throat as it could, short of him swallowing it. Simultaneously, his saliva mixed with the foul-tasting stuff, making him start to foam at the mouth like a mad dog. 5 minutes, Mommy told him, holding out 5 fingers as if he was too little to understand the concept otherwise. You keep it in for 5 minutes. I'm going to the bathroom to use the potty. If you take it out, I'll know. As she walked away, Dougie could only sit there on the naughty stool, breathing through his mouth, trying not to taste the soap. His uvula rattling with each exhale as a way to try and prevent him from gagging. Bubbling drool started to drip out of the corners of his lips. He refused to swallow. Blinking, he released a stream of pee into his diaper. Deep down, he knew it wouldn't be the last time he went in his pants today. Over his shoulder he glanced at the crib, knowing it'd be where he slept tonight. He'd been broken down to his base elements. Deep down, he knew, he was just a baby. Until Mommy said otherwise, he was just a baby who had been waiting for a strong mommy to teach him how to behave. Hey Veronica, Melissa whispered into her phone. It's working. Thanks for the stuff. She giggled. Yeah, I'll totally pay you back. He hasn't even seen the hidden cameras yet. There'll be lots of footage for you to use. If he's good, I'll let him out of the chastity, but not the diapers. She paused and listened. Job? Let's see how well these candid clips work. Then we'll see if I need him to get a job. If his diapers pay for themselves, this might be more profitable and permanent than I thought.